If you bought an inverter pool heat pump because the manufacturer promised massive energy savings, but the first electric bill that you got after you installed it still made your jaw drop, you're going to want to stick around for this video. You may be treating a highly advanced piece of climate technology like a basic on-off appliance. Most pool owners run their heaters at random times, or they crank them up to 100% right before a swim, completely defeating the purpose of the variable frequency technology that they paid for. Today we're going to dive into the data a little bit. We're going to break down how ambient air temperatures, humidity, overnight heat loss, and even your local power utilities peak pricing schedule may determine when you should and should not run your pool heater. By the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly how to build a smarter pool heating schedule for your own climate zone so your pool stays comfortable while spending the least amount possible on electricity. Before we get too far into it, if this kind of content is helpful to you, hit that thumbs up button and consider subscribing. It really does help us out and it doesn't cost you a thing. Now let's get into it. To optimize an inverter pool heat pump, you need to first understand how efficiency actually works. Traditional pool heaters are basically binary. They're either fully on or they're fully off. Inverter units, like my Aquastron 75,000 BTU unit that I just installed, use DC variable frequency technology to dramatically reduce compressor and fan speeds from roughly 20% on up to full output depending on demand. Now, if you look at the advertised specifications for any inverter pool heat pump, you're going to see a peak COP rating. My Aquastron unit is 15.8. COP stands for Coefficient of Performance. A COP of 15.8 simply means that under ideal conditions, the heater can transfer 15.8 kilowatts of heat energy into your pool for every 1 kilowatt of electricity that it consumes. That sounds incredible, but here's what most marketing material doesn't really explain clearly. That maximum COP only occurs under ideal conditions. Usually that means warm ambient air, higher humidity levels, and low frequency maintenance operation where the compressor is running at reduced speeds. When your pool water is cold and your heater first starts working to close a large temperature gap, the unit ramps up towards maximum output. At higher compressor speeds, the COP drops noticeably compared to low frequency maintenance operation. The goal with inverter technology is simple. You want the heater spending as much time as possible maintaining temperature at lower compressor speeds instead of constantly fighting to recover large heat losses at full power. A heat pump doesn't create heat like a gas heater. It extracts heat energy from the surrounding air and transfers it to your pool water. That means your efficiency is heavily influenced by your weather conditions. And as I'm making this video right now, I want you to notice something. This fan, it's not on. And the reason it's not on is not because this heat pump is not on, it's because it is properly set up for efficiency and it doesn't need to be on. As air temperatures drop, there's less available heat energy for the refrigerant system to absorb. Heating output decreases. And in colder or damp conditions, moisture can begin forming frost on the outdoor evaporator coils. Modern inverter heat pumps, like the one I have, use automatic defrost systems to protect the equipment and maintain operation during the colder weather. But this is where many pool owners unintentionally lose efficiency. When outdoor temperatures start dropping into the 40s and low 50s, especially during humid overnight conditions, the heater may start working harder while producing less usable heat output. And if the unit periodically enters defrost mode, that time is spent protecting the system instead of actively producing heat for the pool. That doesn't mean the heater quits working entirely in cooler weather. Many units can still operate effectively in those conditions, but it does mean your efficiency can drop significantly compared to warmer daytime temperatures, especially if the pool is uncovered overnight. This is also why a solar cover matters far more than most pool owners realize. Reducing overnight evaporation and heat loss can dramatically reduce how hard your heater has to work the next day. One more thing people often overlook is water flow. Your heat pump depends on proper circulation to transfer heat efficiently. Dirty filters, restricted plumbing, pump speeds that are too low, or poor flow settings can reduce performance or even trigger flow protection errors. So how do you actually apply all this information? The answer depends heavily on your local climate profile. Let's take a look at 3 of the most common examples. So the first example I'm going to give you is the transition zone. It's the zone where I live. This is what I do. The transition zone would be like the Carolinas, Mid-Atlantic, and some parts of the Midwest. So in this zone, what we have a lot of is warm sunny afternoons, but with cool spring and fall nights with large temperature swings. The strategy here is going to be to prioritize heating during daylight hours when the ambient air temperatures are the highest. If temperatures are dropping into the low 50s overnight, then running your heat pump at 100% at 3 a.m. may produce much lower efficiency than allowing the pool to recover during warmer temperatures the next day. So for many pools in this climate, scheduling concentrated daytime runtime windows can significantly improve overall efficiency. So the next climate zone we're going to talk about is the arid or desert zone. We're talking Arizona, Nevada, inland California. The data here is very hot daytime temperatures, but extremely dry air and rapid overnight evaporative cooling. Your strategy? Well, your biggest enemy here isn't the heater itself, it's evaporation. Run the inverter in eco or maintenance mode during favorable daytime conditions, but pair it with a high quality solar cover at night. Without a cover, much of the heat added during the day can rapidly escape into the cooler nighttime air through evaporation. For profile number 3, we're going to call this a shoulder season climate. This will be climates that are similar to the Northeast or Pacific Northwest. We're talking about areas that have consistent spring temperatures hovering between 55 and 63 degrees Fahrenheit. And your approach here is going to depend a little bit on your equipment's headroom. If your heater is properly sized or a little bit oversized in relationship to your pool, you have a major advantage. You can lean into the maintenance mode instead of trying to force a massive temperature jump in a few hours. Program your unit to run at a lower steady output throughout the entire day. By keeping your pool at a consistent temperature, rather than letting it drop overnight and trying to recover it in the morning, you can keep your compressor in that high COP sweet spot for longer durations. If your heater is right at the maximum or a little undersized for your pool volume, then you might find that it struggles to settle into that efficient low frequency maintenance rhythm. In this scenario, trying to coast won't work because the unit will be at 100% just to break even. Your best bet is to use the boost or rapid heating mode strategically during the warmest peak hours. Typically 1 to 4 p.m. to let it gain a few degrees of margin rather than letting it lag at full power against a losing thermal gradient all day long. That may not necessarily be true if your heater is, say, rated for a 21,000 gallon pool, but your pool is only 16,000 gallons. Here's the important thing that most YouTube videos never really explain. There is no single magic pool heater schedule that's going to work for every single pool. The ideal runtime strategy for a pool in coastal Florida is going to look completely different than one right here in the Carolinas or up in the Pacific Northwest or out in Arizona. To really optimize an inverter pool heat pump, you need to build your own local efficiency profile based on 3 core variables. The first factor is your pool's volume versus your heater size. Are you safely oversized, or is your pool's heater fighting near its maximum gallon capacity all the time? For example, my Aquastron unit is rated for 21,000 gallons, but my pool is under 17,000 gallons. So in other words, your sweet spot is going to shift depending on how close to the ceiling your pool sits. The next factor is going to be your local macroclimate. Look up your average nighttime lows during the swim season, not just the daytime highs. You'll want to adjust your runtime windows month by month as the seasons shift. And the last one is thermal mitigation. Are you actually committing to putting a solar blanket on the water at night to lock in the heat that you paid for during the day? Once you have those 3 locked in, you just have to outsmart one final obstacle: your power company. Speaking of utility companies, this is one variable that can significantly reduce your savings. And it has absolutely nothing to do with the heater itself. Many power companies use time of use pricing structures that charge dramatically higher electricity rates in peak demand hours, often right in the middle of a hot summer afternoon or early evening. This creates an interesting optimization paradox because the warmest part of the day is exactly where that air-sourced inverter heat pump can run at maximum efficiency. But it's also when every single kilowatt costs you the most money. So to beat them at their own game, I want you to pull up your last electric bill and identify your exact peak window if you have one. Then you're going to build a 2-stage smart schedule in your app. Stage 1, run the heater more aggressively during the late morning and early afternoon hours. The outdoor air is already climbing, giving you great COP, but you're going to stay safely inside that cheaper utility pricing window. For stage 2, you're going to program the unit to throttle back to its lowest, ultra-quiet eco-maintenance mode, or temporarily shut down entirely. That exact minute that expensive peak utility rate hits. By preheating the heavy thermal mass of the water earlier in the day, your pool can easily coast through those more expensive peak rate hours without a noticeable loss in temperature. That's where that inverter technology really starts to shine. Managing an inverter pool heat pump isn't about just setting a temperature and forgetting it. It's about understanding how your local climate, utility pricing, evaporation losses, and equipment sizing all work together. I'll put my own schedule in the description so that you can have an example of just how I built mine for my climate. And if you want to check out the Aquastron inverter heat pump that I use in my own pool, I'll put an affiliate link down below in the description as well. Mine is rated for pools up to 21,000 gallons, includes app-based scheduling and power monitoring, and can operate as quietly as 53 decibels, depending on the operating mode. And if you have questions about your own setup, then leave them down in the comments. Tell me about your climate zone, your pool size, your heater size, your utility company's pricing structure, and whether or not you're using a solar cover. And I'll try my best to help you build a smarter heating strategy for your own situation. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to Clearwater Chronicles. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, belly flops build character.